I've already shown you the Munich neighborhoods of Maxvorstadt and Isarvorstadt, Ludwigvorstadt. Both districts were more or less created in the 19th century, when Munich grew rapidly in the course of industrialization. This video is about a district that is older than Munich itself, namely Au-Haidhausen. Whereas Munich was first mentioned in 1158, Haidhausen was already mentioned for the first time in 808. The name Au comes from Ave de Giesingen, which means something like the land by the water near Giesing. Giesing is another district of Munich. Haidhausen was called Haidhausier. Etymologically, Germans can derive the name. They were the houses on the heath, and they already had a church back then. Today, of course, there is no heath to be seen for miles around, because we are in the middle of the city. And that's Au-Haidhausen today. We start at the Friedensengel, the Angel of Peace. Actually, it already belongs to the northern district of Bogenhausen, but what the heck. After all, I'm making a tourist video and not one for the city politics. The 38 meter, 92 feet high column was inaugurated in 1899. At its top hovers Nike, a Greek goddess of victory, not an angel of peace. It is dedicated to 25 years of peace after the Franco-Prussian War. The plinth is designed in the shape of a Greek temple and depicts scenes from Greek mythology. Prinzregentenstrasse, which marks the northern border between Au-Haidhausen and Bogenhausen, runs behind the column. Here you will immediately come across Villa Stuck. The artist Franz von Stuck had the villa built in 1898. Today it houses a museum about the artist, where you can also see his living quarters as well as special exhibitions of contemporary artists. Unfortunately, the facade is somewhat covered due to renovation work, but I will be making another more detailed video about the Villa Stuck in my museum series anyway. Further east you come to Prinzregentenbad, an open-air swimming pool. As I was there the day before the season opened, I was able to quickly film over the fence without being called a peeping Tom. If you continue east along Prinzregentenstrasse, you come to a statue of a great composer and great anti-Semite, that of Richard Wagner. It is no coincidence that this statue is here, because just a few steps further on you come to Prinzregenten Theater. Already the great patron King Ludwig II tried to build an opera house for Wagner in Munich. However, the resistance of Munich's bourgeoisie to the extravagance of the king and Wagner was too great. It was not until 1899 that an opera house was built here with private funds. The model was the Richard Wagner Festival Theater in Bayreuth. After being hit by bombs during the war and several renovations, the Prinzregenten Theater now hosts a wide variety of events, from classical opera, concerts and ballet to theater, musicals and pop concerts. The program is very broad and has fortunately moved away from Wagner. And also the theater is located on the south side of Prinzregentenstrasse. It actually belongs to Bogenhausen and not Au-Haidhausen. But as I just said, potato, potato. 2 steps further on we come to Prinzregentenplatz, and the last home of an anti-Semite who didn't even make good music. Adolf Hitler's last apartment. It had been in this building on the 2nd floor since 1929. His niece, Geli Raubal, committed suicide here in 1931. In 1937 he tried to convince Benito Mussolini to annex Austria. 1945 the American photojournalist Lee Miller took some photos of the apartment. The photo of her in Hitler's bathtub is famous. The fact that Hitler's last reported residence was here also had interesting consequences for German post-war history. It is often said that the book Mein Kampf was banned in Germany. But that is not true. Nevertheless, the Bavarian state was Hitler's heir due to his residence. This also gave it the copyright to the book Mein Kampf. The state did not publish it itself, for understandable reasons, and took action against copyright infringements in Germany and abroad. However, possession was never prohibited. Copyright protection lapsed in 2015 and annotated copies have been available to buy ever since. Today the building houses a police station, not a stupid idea at all, so as not to give the diehards a place to go. Further south of Prinzregentenstrasse is the gigantic hospital complex Rechts der Isar. It is the university hospital of the Technical University of Munich. The predecessor hospital was already located here at the beginning of the 19th century, but the majority of the site was a slum called the Grube. Au-Haidhausen was an industrial district well into the 20th century and was characterized by the working class. Gravel and clay for the bricks of the city of Munich were mined in der Gruben as early as the Middle Ages. The working conditions and hygienic circumstances in the district were more than harsh at the time. Further south you come to the Einsteinstrasse or Max-Planck-Strasse, at the foot of which the Maximilianeum is situated. Hard to see from above because of the trees, you have to go to the Isar to admire it. Many people know the Maximilianeum today as the seat of the Bavarian Parliament. Few know that it's actually a student residence. Completed in 1874, the building was intended to serve as a student dormitory according to the will of King Maximilian II. To get a scholarship there, you need an excellent school-leaving certificate in Bavaria and, of course, a lot of luck with your application. Probably the most famous scholarship holder to date is the physicist Werner Heisenberg. But the scholarship foundation that owns the Maximilianeum actually rents out its premises to the Bavarian Parliament, not the other way around. The Maximilianeum is surrounded by a beautiful park on the right side of the Isar, which invites you to go for a walk. Not far from here you will also find the only statue in Munich that commemorates King Ludwig II. I have already made a video about why this is the case. Below the Maximilianeum you will also find the Kabelsteg, the cable footbridge, where you can take a nice walk along the Isar. In my wilder days, raids occasionally took place here. The footbridge is far enough from any residential buildings, and back then there was a kind of gentleman agreement between ravers and the police that if you don't disturb anyone and left the place as clean as you found it, the police would turn a blind eye. But I don't know whether raves still take place here today. I'm just not in the scene enough anymore. But back to the Maximilianeum and from there to the heart of Au-Haidhausen, Wiener Platz. Here you can immediately see what makes this district so charming. You can still find the old craftsmen's and day laborers' houses next to Art Nouveau and modern houses. One of the 4 permanent markets in Munich is also located here. In the 1980s, the district developed from a former working-class neighborhood into one of Munich's most popular districts. In a word, gentrification. In my opinion, this can also be seen in the market offerings. Behind the market is the Hofbräukeller, not to be confused with the Hofbräuhaus in the Old Town. The brewing operations were moved here from the Hofbräuhaus in 1896. And the Hofbräuhaus beer was brewed here in the Hofbräukeller until 1988. Hitler gave his first major political speech here on October 16, 1919. He also described this experience in his book Mein Kampf. At the entrance of the Hofbräukeller there is a memorial plaque commemorating 12 citizens who were denounced and murdered here by right-wing Freikorps on May 5, 1919. Despite the many dark events, the Hofbräukeller really is a beautiful beer garden with 2,100 seats where you can relax after a walk through the city. From Wiener Platz you can clearly see the Church of St. John Baptist, which stands on Johannisplatz. It was built in 1874 in the neo-Gothic style. It was my first time inside, but I found the ornate altar and the pulpit really beautiful, so it's well worth a look. Nearby is a Munich institution, the Johanniscafé. It has been here since 1925 and has hardly changed since then. Until 2004, Munich had a closing time when pubs had to close at 1 AM. However, there was an exception in every district. In Au-Haidhausen it was the Johannisplatz that stayed open longer. And I used to spend the odd night out here too. If you want to get to know the old Munich, where you can still get the taste of the last spirit of the old working class district, you should have a late night drink here in the Johannisplatz. The old working class charm is particularly noticeable in Preysingstrasse. Many small working class hostels are still preserved here. For example, the Überlackerhäusel, an old accommodation for day laborers. It was even supposed to be demolished in 1966, but was fortunately preserved. Today it even houses a small museum where you can find out more about the harsh living conditions back then. Directly opposite is the Kriechbaumhof from the 17th century, which still bears witness to rural Haidhausen. It was dismantled at its original location in 1976, so that it could be rebuilt here in 1985, according to the old building plans. Today it houses the youth organization of the German Alpine Club. At the end of the street you can once again see how Art Nouveau and worker houses face each other, and many cafes invite you to soak up the atmosphere here. One street further on you come to the oval-shaped Bordeaux Platz, whose name is actually rather unusual here. Other streets are called Metzstrasse, Sedanstrasse, Pariserstrasse or Orleansplatz. Although these are all French towns, they are also towns where the German troops fought in the Franco-Prussian War. They didn't get as far as Bordeaux, but Bordeaux is Munich's twin city. And it's much nicer to be reminded of international friendship instead of nonsensical wars from the past. This neighborhood is therefore also known as the French Quarter. A little further east and you come to Orleansplatz, which together with Ostbahnhof marks the eastern boundary of the district. The Ostbahnhof is the second largest station in Munich after the main station, and many trains heading east depart from here, for example to Salzburg. And a little spoiler, Salzburg will probably be my next video, so subscribe so you don't miss it. From here we head southwest again, first to Pariser Platz, and from there to Weißenburger Platz. In its center is a fountain from the Munich Glass Palace. The Glass Palace was a building at the old Botanical Garden, which was built in 1848 and was mainly used for industrial and art exhibitions. The great model was, of course, the Crystal Palace in London. And like a bad omen, the Glass Palace burned down completely in 1931, 5 years before the same thing happened in London. What remained was this fountain, which now stands here. A little further on you come to Rosenheimerstrasse, the border between Haidhausen and the Au. But before we change to the Au, there is still a lot to see on Rosenheimerstrasse. The Bluesky once stood on the site of today's city Hilton. This is also where Hitler's beer hall putsch began on November 8, 1923. As I've already made a video about the attempted coup, I keep this short. On November 8, 1939, Georg Elser also carried out an explosive attack here, in which only due to unfortunate circumstances Hitler and the entire Nazi leadership did not perish. A plaque commemorates his deed. Further west is the Gasteig Cultural Center, which is currently being renovated. Behind the Gasteig is the small church of St. Nikolai. The origins of the church date back to 1315. It received its current Baroque form in 1660. Today, Slovakian Catholic services are held here according to the Greek rite. The adjoining Loreto Chapel serves as a place of worship for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. The Muffatwerk is located below St. Nikolai. A former power station, today a meeting place for night owls where many concerts are held. Next to it is the Müllersches Volksbad, one of the most beautiful Art Nouveau bars in Europe. The Father Rhine fountain, which once stood in Strasbourg, marks the western boundary of the district. As I said, if you want to find out more, watch my video on the beer hall putsch. When we changed to the Au, we first passed the Museum Lichtspiele movie theater, Munich's oldest cinema, which is also in the Guinness Book of World Records, as it has been showing the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday and Saturday since June 24, 1977. 10 minutes south you come to Maria-Hilfs-Platz, in the middle of which stands Maria-Hilf-Kirche. It was built 1839 in the neo-Gothic style. The square is best known for the Auer Dult, which takes place 3 times a year. I have also made a video about this fun fair and antique market, so I keep it short here too. But I'll include the next dates here. The last stop is the Nockherberg. The Paulaner monks were already brewing here on the hill in the early 17th century. In 1634 they began brewing the strong beer Salvator here as a fasting food. Nockherberg became famous for this. The beer used to be cooled here in deep cellars. At the beginning of the 20th century the strong beer festival became popular, which always begins here with the tapping of the first barrel of Salvator. Despite the strong beer, the atmosphere is usually very peaceful during the festival. Except in 1888, when there was the Salvator battle, which resulted in a mass brawl. In the end, even the cavalry rode into the hall with drawn sabers. In 1999, the beer cellar burned down completely, and I really haven't found any current pictures of the old cellar. It was arson, but the arsonist was never found. The whole story is fishy. Au-Haidhausen really has its own charm, which is different from the medieval Old Town or the magnificent buildings of King Ludwig I in Maxvorstadt. There are guerrilla gardens like this one to discover here, for example. And much more. I couldn't fit all into the video. Just come here and enjoy the atmosphere in a beer garden or a cafe. I will definitely create a standard tour for Haidhausen. Speaking of tours, here is my email address and my homepage. Get in touch if you'd like me to show you around Munich. Until the next video, Philip.